So I wanted to provide a little bit of context if you've never heard of us, if you're a visitor to our campus community. But like I said, we're a part of the Dean of Students office. And so what you see on the screen is our mission statement. But what I really want to highlight is the last sentence in which it says, we assist students in navigating the university and resolving educational, personal, and other concerns that affect the quality of their Titan experience. So this is very much what leads our work in supporting students who are experiencing any types of basic needs and security. And like I said, specifically, we're within the care services area of the Dean of Students office. So care services is designed for students who are experiencing a form of distress, whether that's academic, emotional, behavioral, physical, that's impacting their success here at Cal State Fullerton. We are a small but mighty team. And so between myself, the care and conduct coordinator, the assistant dean, and the associate dean, we provide care-related guidance and resources to students who are experiencing some sort of distress, again, while they're here at Cal State Fullerton. These services are designed within care services for 3 different types: students with a concern, students in distress, and then basic needs services. I want to highlight this just because students often do request basic needs services through the Basic Needs Center, through our online request form, but sometimes they come to us from concerned campus community members. They may submit the wrong, the different forms that we have, but there's a variety of ways in that students can connect with our space to receive resources and support. So how do we provide basic needs assistance here at Cal State Fullerton? So we connect students who experience food, housing, and or financial insecurity to available on or off-campus resources. As you've heard, COVID has been impacting us in many different ways. So that's why it says available, right? Some things have paused and adjusted, and something may not be a good fit for a student depending on their circumstances. An overview of our process is students submit a basic needs services request form. It's an online form that's accessible. They meet with a member of our staff to discuss what's ongoing in their circumstances, what their concerns are. Maybe they've tried to resolve their own concerns, and they maybe have hit a roadblock, or they're not sure where to begin. And we start working with them to determine what resources and services may best meet their needs. These are very individualized conversations. This is very much not a one-size-fits-all approach. As you imagine, at Cal State Fullerton, we have a lot of commuter students. So someone who lives on campus or close to campus is going to have very different needs than someone who's, say, commuting from San Bernardino or Riverside. So we want to make sure we're providing the best support that meets the students' needs based on their circumstances. I do also want to highlight that students are not required or mandated to meet with care services staff when they submit a request form. So if they are able to resolve their concerns on their own, excellent, that's what we love to see it. But if they decide they don't want to meet with us or they no longer have an interest, that's okay. They can always resubmit an online request form at a later date if that need rises at that time. So specifically focusing on food assistance, how do we provide those services to students through TUFFY'S basic needs? So first and foremost is we have donated meals to the gastronome. The gastronome is our on-campus dining facility. And what happens is students who have an on-campus meal plan have the capacity to donate one of their guest meal swipes. And Aramark, who currently oversees the gastronome, has been matching those donations. So it's very much the campus community, students giving back to their peers to be able to provide this to students. So it's for up to 2 weeks, 3 meals a day during that 2-week period. And that's a helpful resource for them to access the gastronome. We do also have ASC guest cards, which can be redeemed, at most on-campus dining locations. So this would be Carl's Jr., Starbucks, Pyology. This is for students who may come to the center and say, I haven't had a meal in a few days. I need access to a resource. We want to get them connected to long-term resources, but also make sure they can have a meal in that moment. So we can give them a few of those ASC guest cards until we can meet with that student again, connect them to long-term resources. I want to highlight Titan Bites. It's currently offline, just again, due to the pandemic. But what this is a opt-in messaging service that students can do through their online portal. It lets them get an alert via email or by text message to let them know about leftover food after campus catered events. So not only does it help eliminate food waste here on campus, but students can anonymously go to this event, grab whatever food is available to them, and go on their way. When this was happening pre-pandemic, anytime that I would send out a Titan Bite alert, the food would be gone within 10-15 minutes. Students love this. It was very much used. So my hope is in the fall, it'll be something that returns as we just, again, navigate the ongoing pandemic. We do also make referrals to full service pantries. Most frequently, it is our ASI food pantry, which I understand you'll hear about a little bit later today, but we'll also connect students to community resources. So again, if they're commuting from San Bernardino, LA County, we want to make sure we're getting them connected to resources that are convenient for them. And we also do help students with CalFresh enrollment. So the CalFresh enrollment that we help with is really application assistance. If you're not aware, CalFresh is a nutrition assistance program that helps individuals and households purchase fresh groceries. Nationally, it's known as SNAP. Many of our students will refer to it as EBT, food stamps. Sometimes they'll call it CalFresh. But if you're not aware, if you are approved, you get an EBT card. It looks like a debit card and can be used at most grocery stores and farmers markets to purchase foods. So what we do, if a student is interested or wants to know if they're potentially eligible for this benefit, we pre-screen students based on the student eligibility criteria and other factors that determine eligibility, and then we'll also provide application assistance. So many students want to apply on their own, that's totally fine, but if a student is concerned about the application or just has questions, we'll sit down with them, walk them through the application, just discuss any questions or concerns they have as they're submitting the application in real time. So if a student is seeking basic needs support, here's just the eligibility to access our services. The most important one is a student does need to be enrolled and matriculated at the time of their request. So sometimes it does happen as a student's graduated or they're taking a semester off, they'll still reach out to us. We will always connect them to community resources, but in terms of on-campus services, they do need to be enrolled and matriculated. They should be experiencing an unforeseen hardship that could impact their ability to stay enrolled. I know that may seem a little straightforward, but many of our students are very forward thinking and they're concerned about something in the summer or even next fall. So again, we'll talk with them about resources for that time, but if they're seeking services in the here and now, it should be an immediate need. Able to demonstrate financial aids, financial need, excuse me, supporting documentation is helpful when appropriate. They should have exhausted their financial resources. And at the very bottom, you see an asterisk next to in good academic standing. So being on academic probation doesn't automatically disqualify a student. It just simply changes the scope of the conversation. If you recall back to care services, we provide this care-related guidance. So if a student's doing poorly, we want to make sure we're connecting them to different academic resources. So maybe that's not why they came to the Basic Needs Center, but we want to make sure that's definitely a part of the conversation. Have they been in communication with their faculty? Do they know about their student success teams and their academic colleges? Again, we want to just make sure we're providing as much holistic support to students because we know basic needs and security can impact various areas of the student's experience. And at the very bottom, you see all requests are reviewed by a basic needs services committee. I wanted to provide a couple of data points just about the number of referrals that we receive from students seeking basic needs assistance. So I did primarily focus on food insecurity, but as I mentioned earlier, we do also provide temporary housing and also financial assistance. So the Basic Needs Center is still relatively new. We opened in February of 2018, so you can see that's when the number of referrals really started to increase. And then the pandemic just really impacted data. But last year, because we were primarily virtual, all of our services, except for hygiene products, were also virtual. So the numbers have changed a little bit, but now that we're back on campus, you can see we're seeing that increase. And this year's data is up until the 1st of April. Traditionally, the most requested service we receive, request we receive is for financial assistance, closely followed by food insecurity, then finally housing. However, this year you can see it's a little bit reversed. We're seeing more food insecurity requests than financial assistance. That's partially because we've really enhanced our CalFresh outreach efforts across our student body. So really wanting to let students know that you're probably eligible for this benefit. If you are, please come talk to us. We want to make sure we're getting you connected because it's a wonderful long-term resource that helps really combat food insecurity. So we're seeing a lot more requests specifically for CalFresh, whether that's interest or wanting that application assistance. So why are we, or what is the cause of some of the food assistance requests that we're receiving from students? So very much like Tabashir mentioned in her own data, it's very much reduced income. We're seeing students have been experiencing unemployment, whether that's for themselves or maybe they live with a nuclear family and they have a family member that was contributing to household income and their income has significantly changed. It could also be reduced work hours. So maybe they still have employment, but their shifts have dramatically changed from 35, 40 hours down to 15. So we're seeing a lot as those two requests as the primary reason of why they're seeking food assistance. It could also be financial aid. So maybe a student is no longer for specific grants or their loan availability was reduced and they relied on that primarily as their incomes. That could have been a reason. And then, like I mentioned earlier, we're seeing a significant interest in CalFresh. So students seeking pre-screening to determine if they are in fact eligible for CalFresh or they're actually seeking application assistance. We do also get a lot of students who are referred to us. So they either are referred by another campus department, staff member, or a friend, or they learned about our services. We do some tabling within the ASI food pantry to talk about CalFresh as part of our outreach efforts, or they see us in other spaces on campus and they want to learn a little bit more about our services. How can we provide assistance? So they may not actively be seeking food assistance at that time, but they want to learn a little bit more about the resources we provide. Part of our holistic approach, is we do programming for students. So for our spring 22 semester, we've been providing a slew of workshops on these following topics. Again, really to provide that holistic support to students. So first and foremost, we have a healthy eating workshop series. This includes workshops on smarter shopping. So how to best maximize the resources at the grocery store. Do you know about our coupon flyers? Do you know where the best deals are? We do a Let's Get Fresh with CalFresh presentation, which is an overview of what CalFresh benefits are, who can be eligible for them, and actually shows a demo application at the end so students can familiarize themselves with it before they even decide if they want to apply on their own. And we also have a Fresh Facts with CalFresh presentation that works to demystify, destigmatize CalFresh benefits in an effort to, again, just make the awareness of how this benefit can help our students. We do also have a Basic Needs Ambassador Seminar Series. This is peer-to-peer support. So students learn about basic needs and security issues, definitions, data, how to support their peers that may be experiencing any types of basic needs, insecurities, and then how to connect them to on and off campus resources. In my experience, students listen to other students more than they will listen to administrators. So this is a great way, again, to help destigmatize and get the word out of how students can support one another. And then we also have financial literacy workshops. So this ranges from understanding what financial wellness is, how to create a budget, all the way to how to find an apartment or how to make sure you're protecting your online identity from identity theft. Every semester, we do also have CalFresh Outreach and Enrollment Days. We had one in March and our upcoming one is in April, so on the 19th and 21st. So this is a partnership that we have with OC Social Services. On day one, on the 19th, our staff helps students with the applications for CalFresh. They can do a Zoom appointment, they can do an in-person. We are able to take some limited walk-ins as well. So students apply, and then on day two, so 2 days later, OC Social Services comes out to the quad, so very central here on campus. You might have actually seen it, big OC Social Services tents, and the students can have their interviews on site. So the benefit of this event is students are getting expedited services. If everything is good to go at the end of their interview, they're able to actually get their EBT card printed on site, so they don't have to worry about it getting mailed, waiting for their phone call from social services. So really, again, eliminating those barriers that students could be facing. So this is specifically for Orange County residents, since Fullerton's in Orange County, but we still help students apply if they live in neighboring counties. They just wouldn't be able to do the interview portion since it's OC Social Services. Just to give you some logistical information of where we are. So we're in McCarthy Hall, so very central to campus, room 143. If you are on campus and you'd like to stop by and visit and say hello, please do. We're open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then our email is Basic Needs. We are very active on Instagram. We also have a Facebook and Twitter account. But this is where we post information about our upcoming programs, tips and tricks about applying for CalFresh, and really just trying to get some more outreach out to our campus community. And I've also included a bit.ly link for our website as well. I know we'll have questions, but there's my contact information if you do need to get in contact with me directly. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Victoria. And now we will move on to Dr. Duran, who will be discussing the need for creating a culture of care to support student basic needs.
Thank you. It always takes me a minute to unmute myself and find that, that button. So am I sharing my slides or I am? Okay, 1 second. Let me make sure I get the right one. And can you let me know if you're seeing my slides or my notes? My slides? Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm sharing with you our work being done to create a culture of care at CSUN. But just want to share a little bit, right? Across the CSU campuses, efforts to increase student retention and degree completion, especially among first generation and low income students, are being implemented. However, the lack of awareness among faculty and staff related to students' challenges in meeting their basic needs and the subsequent lack of support in helping students navigate points of service on campus can undercut these efforts to increase retention and graduation rates. In 2007, Castellanos and Gloria proposed utilizing a psychosociocultural approach in implementing strength-based practices to support educational success among Latinx students. And at CSUN, where our Latinx students represent about 55.2% of our student body, we find this framework to be fitting for the work that we're undertaking. I want to tell you a little story first. So in 2015, we opened our food pantry that provides shelf-safe food and hygiene products. Within a year, we then implemented our pop-up pantry, which provides approximately 3,000 pounds of fresh produce per event. And we currently have about 2 pop-up pantries per month. And within the same time frame, our students actually recognized that there wasn't a centralized location to find information related to basic needs. And so our students created CSUN with a Heart to list all the resources available that support basic needs. And so then we asked ourselves, right, how well are we doing in supporting our students? And so in 2019, my colleague, Dr. Myrna Sawyer, and I surveyed our students to assess food security status, along with the facilitators and barriers to accessing our food pantry. And we found that while our food insecure students were accessing our food pantry, there were at least 58.4% of our very low food secure students and 68.3% of our low food secure students. And you have heard earlier the definition of those 2 terms, in fact, had not accessed the food pantry. So it was clear that we needed to do more, right? And so with our food pantry, while our building is beautiful, it's also at the edge of campus where it's not very visible. And with our CSUN with the Heart website, again, very nice looking, and it's something's better than nothing, because prior to this website, it was a scavenger hunt, really trying to find information on our resources. This website is not resourced, right? Which means the links may or may not be useful, and the information may or may not be updated. And so it was clear to us that we needed to do more. And so thankfully, the Chancellor's Office funded us, right, to work on a project where we can create a campus climate where faculty, staff, administrators, and students advocate for and connect students to resources and services that support their basic needs. We do this using the Castellanos and Gloria framework, the PSE framework, right, where we provide or aim to provide psychological validation, establish social networks, and provide cultural affirmation. So what does that look like? When we think about psychological validation, we want to recognize that psychological validation is important to students' well-being, right? Where their identity and whenever possible, their thoughts, feelings, emotions, and behaviors are acknowledged and accepted, including meeting their basic needs. And so early in our work, I hope none of you heard this, but sadly on my campus, we would hear comments like, wait a minute, why are we creating a food pantry, right? It is this parents' responsibilities to feed their kids. Had to take a deep breath with that one, right? To then remind folks, we have student parents on our campus, right? In our classrooms. And so it was clear we needed to know, what did our faculty and staff know about basic needs in higher ed? And so in 2001, we piloted a survey to measure the knowledge, attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors of our faculty and staff. And in our preliminary findings, something that was striking was that over 25% of our respondents did not feel prepared to talk to students about their basic needs challenges, especially related to housing and mental health. And so part of this grant will support the development of micro videos and accompanying fact sheets and talking points to educate our clients on who our students are, to share with our faculty and staff, right, the role of basic needs in academic and student success, which you have heard earlier, on navigating CSUN with a heart, right, which is now being resourced, right, and serving as a touch point for basic needs programs and services. And in fact, in February of 2021, our Faculty Senate passed a resolution to encourage faculty to include language in their syllabi regarding basic needs. And so again, an effort to see our students in their whole and support our students in being on campus and being able to present their authentic selves. And of course, this work isn't possible without integrating student voices. And later at 1 o'clock today, you'll hear from our student scholar, Cheryl, who will share a little bit about the work that she's doing with other students on informing what is working and not working for students with respect to how they feel supported on campus related to their basic needs. Social networks, we know social capital is important across all fields. We need to have networks, right, and communities of support. And so our sister campus at Cal State Bakersfield, and I just heard you also mention you have a basic needs outreach program, really inspired us to do something similar. So this semester, we're also piloting our CSUN with the Heart basic needs outreach program to train faculty and staff. Really, we want to be able to increase the number of faculty and staff that can advocate for students' basic needs, that are available to lead the basic needs outreach training program and or smaller, shorter educational workshops using the micro videos. And we want to increase the number of faculty and staff that incorporate formal and informal policies and practices that support student basic needs. I'll give you an example. Policies around the deadlines, right? Assignment deadlines. So at PCC, they tested adding some flexibility on these deadlines. So they took a course that had a high DUF rate, kept one, status quo as usual, right? If you're late, you get 10% off. 5 days later, 0 points. And then on the other course, they added flexibility, something that stated as simple as saying, if you can't meet this deadline, please inform the instructor. And what they found was that in the course that offered flexibility, that DUF rate was significantly reduced, and that typically students needed just a few hours past that deadline to submit that assignment. And when they talked to students about, well, what was the barrier, right, in meeting that deadline, we heard stories about caregiving responsibilities, about long commutes, about longer work hours, right? And so these aren't students who are like, yo, I just don't want to do the work. No, these are students who are juggling multiple demands, right? And at least at CSUN, that is the reality of at least 40% of our students, right? We also want our students are amazing, and they lead and build communities online. So we leverage our social media handles, and again, they are led by our students, and build community online where they can also support and connect students to our resources on campus. Cultural affirmation, right? We want to support the development of a positive self-confidence concept, sorry. We want students to continue to believe that they will succeed, and that we want our students to feel good about themselves. And so, you know, we want to be able to create an environment that affirms their lived experience, right? And so part of that is through our service learning projects, right? Which engages not just faculty, but students in learning about basic needs, and also, right, gives them the knowledge and tools to be able to support each other and advocate for each other with respect to basic needs. More recently, I'm happy to share, and I'm so excited to hear about your programs. And more recently, CSUN has finally decided to put basic needs as a line item in our state budget, because until now we have been fully funded by grants, right? By both, you know, our administrators and our faculty seeking funding however way we can to implement these programs. And more, we also, through one of our service learning projects, brought together interior design, nutrition, and public health students to conceptualize what a community kitchen can look like at CSUN and why it's important in supporting students' basic needs. Initially, when I requested the blueprints from our University Student Union, the executive director, who I love, said to me, "Nellie, I'm not making any promises, and I'm not guaranteeing anything." I remember saying to her, "That's fine. I still want to borrow your blueprints." And our students did such an amazing job in not just the actual representation of what a community kitchen can look like, but really telling the story of why this is important on our campus. Through our focus groups, we learned that our students who were experiencing housing insecurity, right, where they're rent homeless, but they were literally renting a room with no refrigerator, no access to a kitchen, right, were experiencing food insecurity because they had nowhere to access, nowhere to store or cook their food. So even though we have a food pantry, it wasn't really helpful to them if they didn't have anywhere to store their food. For our students who have long commutes, again, not helpful if I have to carry a bag of groceries with me on campus. And so we really needed to think about how to meet that needs, and that's how the concept of a community kitchen came about. And we're happy to share that the University Student Union and CSUN have partnered and revised their renovation plans for our University Student Union to now include a basic needs suite that will house a community kitchen along with our food pantry, our CalFresh outreach programs, and our newly hired care coordinators. So we are really excited about this partnership. And, you know, again, going back to cultural affirmation, we're not asking students to go to the edge of campus or to some dark closet for support, right? We are now going to be at the center of the campus so our students know that they are being seen. And again, that importance of having our students be able to be on campus and be their whole selves. This work, again, is not possible without integrating our student voices. And so just yesterday, we had our last focus group on informing what we want in a community kitchen. And in 2 weeks, we'll be piloting a program that we hope we can offer through the community kitchen called Breaking Bad, promoting well-being, where students will cook in community, but also learn about distress tolerance skills. Oh, I'm talking really fast. I still have like 4 minutes. This work, of course, is not possible without my colleagues and friends across, you know, the departments of food science, interior design, and public health in the English department. I was speaking very fast, but thank you so much. And I'm so happy to be able to share this with you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Duran. Everything that all of you guys talked about were so important for students and faculty to hear because of the issue where students aren't really reaching out or knowing that these services are available to them on campus. So it's really important that you guys highlighted all these different services that students can reach out to get the help they need, and allows faculty to kind of keep an eye out and see what students actually need help with and point them in the right direction. So now we will move on to our question portion. If anyone has any questions they would like to put in the chat. For Victoria, what are there Are there any internship opportunities available for students to get involved with TUFFY'S basic needs? And if so, how can they get involved?
So thank you. So currently, no, we don't have any internship opportunities. We do have student assistants and graduate student assistants, but no internship opportunities at this time.
Thank you. And for Dr. Duran and Dr. Nobari, are there any programs or research opportunities that students can get involved in? If so, how would they get involved?
Dr. Duran, would you like to go first?
Sure. So in all of our programming, we like to involve students, and when possible, involve our students in research. So yes, in the fall, we are reassessing our food, re-administering the food security survey. And, hopefully we were able to hire some student research assistants. And, I think, and at times we also, follow where our students want to take us. And so sometimes it's our students who approach us who say, for example, the pop-up pantry, that was really led by our student, Jennifer Radzianka, who now works for the Los Angeles Regional Food Bank. And that was her thesis project. She was already volunteering at Food Forward, and she saw a great partnership there to bring fresh produce. And so, there's sort of the research that we undertake, but there's also the projects and research that students are interested in undertaking.
And the same on our end. So we've had Masters of Public Health students help with the studies. Also, undergraduate students have interned with us. So if any students are interested in getting more involved and getting that research experience, they can email me.
Thank you. And for Dr. Duran, the CSUN programs you mentioned, like the pop-up pantry and the kitchen, sound like so amazing. How do you think they can be implemented at other universities like Fullerton and UCs?
Oh, thank you. So, I think, there's different variations of how to implement a community kitchen. But we are also working closely with the chancellor's office, right? So that we can share our experience, and hopefully then other campuses can take what we have learned and either take on a similar project and or implement aspects of it. Even at CSUN, we know that of a campus of 40,000, the space that we have for a community kitchen will not be suffice to meet the needs of everybody on campus. But what we can do is model aspects of our community kitchen. For example, warming stations and having cold food storage lockers, right? Where maybe there'll be other buildings on campus, programs on campus that want to offer the same amenities to their students. We're not a terribly large campus, but it's still large enough where I think there's, space on the campus where we could take parts of the community kitchen and create smaller lounges and spaces for students to store their food and warm or prep their food. Yeah, we will be happy to share all of our learnings with anyone interested.
And we have a question from Josie. Dr. Duran discussed that the students played a large role in driving the creation of some of the programs at CSUN. Are there any efforts to formalize that kind of collaboration going forward to address other student needs?
So yes, thank you. With the Basic Needs Suite and the partnership with the University Student Union, as many of you know, maybe some of you are involved in the USU Board of Directors, we are looking to establish a basic needs, similar, student advisory board. Again, at least in the projects that I've been involved in, we've always made sure to integrate student voices and lead our efforts with data, right, based on our students' experience. And so we are definitely committed to establishing that advisory board. And again, I have to say, for a campus as large as CSUN, I mean, I shared earlier, this is the first time that we are on the state budget, right? A lot of our work was driven by students volunteering their time and energy, by faculty and staff volunteering their time and energy, by writing external grants. And we'll continue to do that, of course, but I think, really being on the state's budget ensures that some of the programs will have longevity. And we have expanded our service learning projects. So for a while, a lot of them came out of my community nutrition course, but now we have public health, also integrating some service learning projects in their courses, the marketing department, and we really are hoping we can get more faculty across the university to think about how they can integrate service learning projects that are tied to basic needs.
Wonderful. And like going kind of off of that, like you all mentioned how a lot of the need has been students and they're not actually reaching out for that need that they require, whether it be financially or through food assistance or housing. So how would you encourage students and staff to help other students that are too shy to connect with these resources, reach out and get the help they need?
So one of the things we're undertaking now is really to change the campus climate and really to shape and create an environment that is responsive to who our students are. So really, right, if we think about how institutions of higher education were created, I'm a Latina, first gen, right, daughter of Mexican immigrants. The reality is that these institutions were not created with me in mind, right? And so at CSUN, through really thinking about our campus climate and even the physical changes, right? The built out of our basic needs suite at the center of campus, right? We really want to be bold and think about if we're going to create programs that support student success, what does that mean? And I'll again take from my colleagues and siblings at Cal State Bakersfield in saying that basic needs programming is student success programming. And so I think that creating a climate where if I'm a student, that I feel comfortable to be able to tell anyone that, whether it's faculty, staff, or my peers, that I can share what I'm experiencing, right? And so that we have multiple folks who can serve as touch points and as folks who, and sometimes we need someone to listen, right? But really, again, creating that culture of care, I think is at least at CSUN our long-term goal, so that we normalize, right, accessing services and support and recognize that we all have basic needs. Every one of us here at some point in our lives have needed support with our basic needs, right? And so being able to acknowledge that and accept that, embrace it, and then support each other, I think would be one way that we start to see more students access the resources available.
Here at Cal State Fullerton with TUFFY'S Basic Needs, we do a lot of outreach and we do it in a variety of different ways. So we do also have a workshop for faculty and staff called our Basic Needs Ambassador Training. It's specifically designed to help faculty and staff understand basic needs and security issues, how to connect students to those resources, how to empathetically support students who may come forward and share their experience in these things. What I shared during that training is students have to find the Basic Needs Center, whether that's through our programming, through our tabling, through just hearing about us from the campus tours. However, they need to find us. But if our faculty and staff are informed, know how to make the appropriate connections to students and how to make a student feel comfortable and reaching out and doing it in a variety of ways. Hey, if you're not comfortable going to the center, do the online form. It's private, or here's Victoria's contact information. You can reach out to her directly or try one of their programming. So however we can spread the word, right? But faculty and staff have many more touch points with students. They may have a really good relationship with their academic advisor or one of their faculty, or they're part of a student organization. So we want to make sure that this is something that many of our faculty and staff are aware of. We've been doing our basic needs ambassador training since fall of 2019. We've been able to continue it through the pandemic, and it's something we continue to offer several times during the semester because we recognize the importance of it. And like I said earlier, we have other types of outreach too. So if students a little concerned, our front desk is staffed by student assistants that are trained on being sensitive and empathetic when students are coming into our center, just being mindful of why students may be coming in. Same thing when we do tabling. And then I mentioned a slew of our types of programming. So if a student's wanting to maybe dip their toe in the water in a more palatable way, if that makes sense, programming can be a little bit more fun, just more engaging. That's another way they can learn about it, because we'll always talk about our services, have resources available to students. And some students also, like I said earlier, do a really good job about listening to other students. So they may hear from a friend, or like, hey, I got some support here from TUFFY'S, go by, see what they have to offer. So we try to make ourselves as accessible and approachable on campus as possible.
And one last from Joe. He said that it sounds like TUFFY'S has made significant adjustments to help the students with the pandemic-driven needs. Do you anticipate this level of service to be permanent, or do you expect there to be a return to pre-pandemic level of services in the future?
So if I think I understand this question, you can see from the brief snapshot of our data that we've already exceeded pre-pandemic numbers. And I think it's a variety of different things. During the pandemic, there was a lot of federal and state support that students were receiving. And so as the waves of the pandemic have changed, student needs have also changed. So I think it's a combination of students becoming more aware, reaching out and requesting services, that we're seeing that increase in numbers. I hope we don't have another wave that drives up what we saw at the very beginning of the pandemic. I think our students have become very savvy about learning what the different resources are on campus. And again, we've had different types of support that have come through in the past 18 months, 2 years that students have been navigating. So I do expect an increase in our services as a combination of our outreach, students learning about us, accessing those services. But I hope we're not returning to pandemic levels, just because I hope that need doesn't arise again. But we are here to support students. And like I said, we are seeing those increases that we anticipated just from, again, just being more visible on campus.
Thank you so much. And I wanted to point out that on the Fullerton campus, we have the ASI food pantry that is donation-based, and they help get nutritious food to all students in need. And Christian Johansson will be speaking more about the ASI food pantry in the Student Presentation Center, and more information can be found on our symposium website, as well as the link to donate if you wish to. But with that, I thank everyone for listening and all of the speakers. We will now have a 10-minute break, and then we will continue with our student presentation session at 1. Thank you.